some things have happened in the U.S. which explain how we ended up here, in my opinion. If you go back 50 years, a mother would turn to her son or daughter and go, get a good paying factory job. You'll be taken care of for the rest of your life. This is what the kind of work you want and all of that. Well, enter low wage countries that start basically using slave labor to make products. You had two different paths that American manufacturers went down. One of them went to treat the people as badly as you can. We're going to mimic what's being done in these other countries. We're going to just basically beat and rob the extra production out of them. And then you had other ones that said, you know what, I'm going to make my people better and stronger. And we're going to put out a better quality product. And we're going to do this because they were competing on skills and efficiency and quality. Well, one of those two groups gave the other one a bad name.
This is the Alden Report.
All right, my name is Mike Alden. We are here in Blue Vase Studios, and I tell you, I'm super excited. I'm super amped up. I got my Blue Vase t-shirt on. I got my 99-cent glasses, of course, but I actually need them because the lights behind me are too bright. I got my Wicked Happy hat on. I'm super good. Lights blinking in the background. The backdrop's purple. Look at my hair. My hair's all crazy. I haven't even been to the gym yet. I haven't even showered yet, but I wanted to get into the studio because I wanted to tell you what we're doing. We've been at this for 7 years. 7 years providing you value each and every week, providing you value that, with some of the biggest names in business have been on the Alden Report, and we do it for free, and we want to reward you. We want to reward our subscribers, the old ones, the new ones, and everything in between. We're going to start by giving away something each and every episode. Things like, I don't know, $100 Amazon gift cards. What about this? What about like cold hard cash? Not just 100, maybe hundreds. Maybe it's going to be hundreds of dollars. It could be just $100 bill, or it could be hundreds. What about things like this? This right here is really special. My fingerprints are all over, but that's okay. This right here, 10 ounces of silver. This is 10 ounces of silver. It's worth about $230 right now. By the time you probably get it, it'll probably be worth a lot more because with the way inflation's going, it's going to be crazy. Now, what about things like luxury items? What about luxury items like this? Okay, it's a Breitling. Okay, Breitling Bentley. See the Bentley right there? Maybe it's going to be actually my watch. Who knows? Maybe you'll get that. What about things like Apple watches or PlayStations? We're going to be doing that each and every episode, not each and every week, each and every episode. Well, what do you need to do? Well, you obviously need to be a subscriber of the Alden Report. We need you to start there, okay? Now, whether that's on iTunes or Spotify or obviously YouTube, we're going to be actually weighing YouTube a little bit more heavily. So we need to make sure that you subscribe on YouTube. Now, each and every episode, what do you need to do? You need to like we said before, you obviously need to subscribe. You need to share, and you need to comment. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Once you do that, you have then been entered into our weekly contest. When you do that, we're going to randomly pick a subscriber of the Alden Report, and you're going to get a special prize. It could be the silver, it could be the watch, it could be $100 cash. But here's one thing that I'll guarantee you. Each and every winner is also going to get the 99-cent glasses. We might even throw in a Wicked Happy hat. We want to reward you for the things you've done for us. We're going to continue to do some amazing things here on the Alden Report, and we want to thank you for your continued support. Again, my name is Mike Alden. This is the Alden Report. We're right here in Blue Vase Studios, and I can't wait to give you a prize.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be Wicked Happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.
This is the Alden Report.
All right. Well, my name is Mike Alden. We are here in Blue Vase Studios. You hear this thing, made in America, right? People always talk about made in America. What does that really mean? What is the importance of that? What does it mean for you as a consumer? What does it mean for this country as we continue to struggle with growth with other countries like China and India? In Pakistan, I know they do a lot of stuff in Pakistan, especially in the textile space. My next guest is Jason Azevedo. He's trying to revitalize this made in America thing that we have here. He's bringing manufacturing back, which is a very difficult thing to do. And not only that, but he's doing it in California, which is kind of an expensive place to live, let alone run a business and even make any sort of profit. So he's here today. I'm super excited. He's been an entrepreneur his whole life. He also started an apparel company when he was just a kid and was generating millions of dollars doing business with some of the biggest companies in the world, like Nike. As someone who owns an apparel company and a lifestyle brand, wicked happy. I'm super excited to have him on because I'm probably just going to pick his brain and have him give me some free advice on how do I grow this brand to make it internationally recognized, like what he's done as well. So if you're interested in what that really means, made in America, and really, I'm going to talk a little bit about the marketing side of it. Can we use it? Should we use it? I'm a lawyer, and so I know that there's some legal implications of using that as well. So if you're interested in business, here in the United States, you're not going to want to miss this episode. Please help me welcome Jason Avito. Jason, thanks so much for being my guest.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a very fun conversation, kind of dive into some of our favorite topics.
I tell you, I'm a little proud of myself for that. That was literally just nothing. I just was like, you and I were just talking awesome. A second ago, and I was like, let me look at your stuff. And I'm like, man, that was pretty good. I'm pretty good. I'm not saying pretty good.
Doing great.
So, all right, that's it. We're done. So let's just start with, I couldn't tell what the name of your clothing brand. So you're a young entrepreneur in your teens. You start a clothing line. Tell us a little bit about that. How'd that come about? What was that like?
I was 15. My brother was 20. And like every kid around that age, we're going to make a ton of money printing t-shirts. And quickly learned that was a very cutthroat business. So we decided not only we're going to print t-shirts and make apparel, and we were doing cut and sew stuff. And we started with doing like local high schools and soccer teams and your mom and dad's family reunion stuff. And that wasn't going anywhere. So we decided, you know what, let's go for let's be the most complex cutting edge we can in the industry. So set the kind of stage right around this time. Affliction's getting real big. They're doing that whole big all over printing. Everybody's foil printing everything under the sun. So we decided, you know what, we're just going to print as big and as complex as we possibly can, and then just go out to companies and take the jobs that nobody else wants to touch. So we started just developing our own inks, developing our own processes. At one point, some of the top suppliers into the industry are coming into our building to test products they had made in their labs because we had such a controlled environment. We were willing to try crazy stuff.
All right, let me stop you. I'm going to stop you right there. Just saying what you just said, you're 15, your brother's 20. I've been in business a long time. I've done hundreds of millions in revenue. I wish I kept, 10% of it. And you and I probably wouldn't be talking. I'd probably be fucking sitting on a beach somewhere. But okay, that in and of itself is an expensive proposition. Let's talk about capitalization. How did you raise money? Did you have rich parents?
No,
how'd that happen?
No. So my brother and I, both together, took one soccer season in the local youth soccer league, and we got paid $600 each to line the soccer fields every week. And it wasn't 600 every week, 600 for the entire season. So we had $600 cash to our name, teamed up with another individual, and we started with that. That was our cash infusion. We started in February of 2007. So here comes kind of late 2007, early 2008. And
Which, by the way, it was a great time for the economy. I mean, everything was going great.
Wonderful, especially right as you had just started a business and spent the only money you had, and you're reinvesting every dollar of profit you've got, and you've committed to buy new equipment. Yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful time. So the crash happens, and I remember turning to my brother and going, are we going to lose the business? Because everyone's talking about how everyone's losing businesses. And the two of us kind of realized we don't even know what losing a business means at this point. Like we had nothing coming in. We have nothing now. Like, okay, we lost the last 6 months of our lives, but we changed our mindset really quick and realized, wait, we're so broke. We're so small that it doesn't matter to us. Well, that is not the case of every other person in the industry. So what we figured out was all the equipment is now on fire sale. People that are doing business at big shops that have these massive overheads and the margins in the industry aren't very great to begin with. Well, guess what? They're closing their doors. So you've got these good, healthy clients that were part of another shop. Well, they're now available. So we started going out and going, okay, the only way to make money right now is to sell complexity. Nobody's buying cheapo shirts to throw away because the economy's in the trash. So we started focusing on basically picking up pieces from everyone else, whether it be equipment, whether it be clients. We're taking on people are like, I need to do something special because we don't have the budget to do the cheapo stuff this year. So only my executive team gets some stuff. So we just kind of pivoted and took what everyone else is saying is this death certificate for a business our age and just turned it into our winning ticket, where we're like, oh, okay, we're going to just completely take this from a different path. And that single mindset switch we've used many times in our careers now, where you're like, wait, if it's bad, chances are there's a really good way to make it good.
So you were like in the apparel business. When you say complex stuff, give me I mean, I know. So you basically talked about, so you're gonna take in the small jobs, you're doing the small runs. But give me an example again, because I'm kind of in this space now of something that's complex, like let's give me an example.
So I'll give one. I still love this shirt. It's uglier than heck, but it proved a lot of points for us. So we printed a giant cupcake. Okay. And we use these kind of puffing inks that would come upwards, but then we started mixing like a glitter to make the sprinkles. And then we homogenized in vanilla, an essential oil that smelled like vanilla, and mixed that for 2 days. All the colors custom mixed. As you wore it, the shirt would kind of change and morph with you. We did another one. It was we did it for a tech company. And they were all about finding cybersecurity flaws and stuff. So as you walked through their trade show booth, UV light would start penetrating the shirt and showing new security flaws that would pop up on your clothing. We did one that we're doing these foils embedded and using a chemical that eats the cotton out of polyester shirts. So the first wash, it actually eats all the cotton and leaves the poly in. So it's see-through, but with foil behind it. I mean, basically anything anybody could dream up. We're just like, okay, let's try it. Well, why not? This would be fun. And would beat our heads against the wall for just literally hours, days. But it was where we found the joy in it. And that's what got us into so many other types of manufacturing, was that development process of how do you take on complex projects?
So again, I keep going back and I'm thinking about like the cost of this stuff, for you. I mean, were you making money at that point?
No. God, no.
Okay.
And anything we'd make would go straight back into the business. And the beauty of it was, I was still in high school. So living with mom and dad, I'm paying for my own food, but I would go to school for 6-7 hours, whatever the minimum I possibly could be there for was. And then I'd be at the shop the rest of the time. So I didn't have money. I didn't have time to go spend money. So we literally just took everything we had, and a check had come in. Great. Oh man, we want to buy this machine, or we want to do this. And we just kept on reinvesting. And then we also got creative too. So like, I'm sure you've seen like flocked clothing. we couldn't. I distinctly remember this guy selling we're at a trade show. This guy selling a handheld flocking device. And
I don't know what flocking is.
okay, so like that furry velvety print or that print that you put on things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's selling this device that put that furriness on shirts, and I'm like, how much is it? He goes, $19.95. I'm like, oh, nice. So I go to the ATM and I come back and I hand him a 20. And he looks at me, he goes, what? I'm like, oh, you meant $1,995 for that little handheld thing. He goes, yeah. He goes, the real one for production is $100,000, something like that. So of course we memorized how this thing worked and went and read it. And we went to a plastic store in Harbor Freight and got all the components together, made it for like $150. Ended up electrocuting ourselves doing it and knocking me back like 4 or 5 feet. But we just built the machine because we didn't have the money to buy it. So we're like, hey, we're gonna have to learn the science behind how this machine works too. And we would just make them in the back of our warehouse.
That's nuts. So okay, so you start out. I'm sure. I mean, we could probably spend hours just in those few couple of years. But how do you go from, doing, I'm guessing, print on demand stuff or or pressing, for like high schools and soccer, teams, stuff like that. How do you go from that to working with Nike and some of these other huge brands? Like, how does that happen? Who opens those accounts? Who makes that phone call? How do you get in with companies like that?
So there was a combination of things that were going on. We did have a sales rep that would open some doors. But really our whole thing was we just got out there. I had a really specifically with that company had a very, very strong presence on the industry forums. We shared 100% of our information with people. So we'd be developing out something crazy, how to do it. And you could call us and I would walk you through how to do this thing that we just spent 5 weeks developing. And with those relationships,
hold on, I'm gonna stop you again. Why do you do that? Gary Vee talks about, hey, here's my 48-page deck. I'm gonna show you how to do everything I do. And I'm not worried about it because no one's going to do it anyway. But I've owned a bunch of different businesses. And I remember real quick, this is not about me, but I remember I had I got them still here in the office, a freeze pop called Zeus Juice. They're freeze pops with booze in them. Amazing. I ended up going bankrupt as a result of it. It was a lot of fun. But I remember talking to a guy who had these, one Jello shots and another guy had these test tube things. And I was same thing. How do you do it? Tell me. And they would tell me everything. And I was essentially kind of a competitor of theirs. Why do you show potential competitors what you're doing? Like, what's the sense behind that?
It's twofold. Partially, it's just naturally how we are.
Nice guys.
Not even nice guys. I'm not one of those guys to go hold my cards in my chest all day long, every single day. Like this isn't the secret to how the iPhone works. Okay. Like get your ego in check for a second. I tell people this all the time. It's like, you did not just like do something so out of this world complex that nobody can figure it out if they want it. So we share the information. The other part of it is most of the time, nobody wants to do this stuff. That's why they're not doing it anyways. So what ends up happening is people who have Disney as account or Nike or Starbucks, they're just like, you know what? Can I just have you do this work? Like we figured out how to do the sample. It's a pain. It's not part of our business model. And they would just start handing us the stuff. And we start getting involved in these conversations because we had just left the doors open. And like I mentioned early on, we had one of the top ink companies at the time. They needed to test an ink and they needed a place to test it that was going to be a real world environment, not their laboratory. And they flew out to our shop and tested it there for 2 or 3 days. And they're like, well, do we have to pay for this? And we're like, no, it's like, we want to be on the development floor with this. So it was so much. And till this day, that's how our companies largely work, is it's so focused on kind of this collaborative, hey, how do we develop together? And it's not because it's necessarily nice guys stuff. It's you get a lot faster, a lot further when everyone's communicating.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think for those listening to, and I think, again, Gary Vee's out there talking about this, and he has been for a while. It's a somewhat counterintuitive way to think, I think, for a lot, especially young entrepreneurs, like, hey, I do have this, the next iPhone or the stuff they have, but in all reality, they probably don't. And so your thought process is not only is just kind of how you guys operate, but you look at it as the potential relationship that could come as a result of it.
Yeah. And if I'm talking about my idea that we're testing out, chances are I'm so far ahead of you on it anyways, that go ahead and go start developing. I mean, Elon's doing this. He released all the patents to Tesla.
Right.
I mean,
that was the next guy that was going to come to mind. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. This is not.
But hold on, he's saving humanity, man. You're making t-shirts, a little different.
Very, very different. But in fairness, his IP is significantly more important,
right.
and he spent a lot more money developing it than two kids in a warehouse.
Right.
So but it's just part of how we've always done business. And it's treated us well. But we never did it because we wanted it to treat us well. It was a symbiotic return.
So you start out essentially manufacturing t-shirts and apparel for others. Was there a point where you created your own brand?
We thought about it. We played with it. No, not in any real way. We were involved in some that were pretty cool, that we had a heavy hand in influencing where they were going. Neither one of us really wanted to be in that owning a brand side. We're at our hearts, we're manufacturers. And the more we developed the apparel company, the more we began to realize we were manufacturers, and we build and make things. So owning a clothing brand just wasn't something that we were looking for. Now we put a lot of input into a lot of brands, and we love those big wins when you'd watch them do well with the information. But it just wasn't something we were looking for.
I'm sure you'll probably put this in the book that you're going to eventually write one day. Like when I think of like the hundreds, I don't know if you know who they are, like out your way. You know who those guys are? Okay. I figured, and I read
with the Mickey Mouse hands.
Yeah, he's got the bomb, whatever, and he wrote a book called "This Isn't a T-Shirt Company" or something like that. I've talked to the guys from Tap Out before, and kind of what they've done. But when I think about kind of like, what you're doing, like, so for instance, like, so I own a brand called Wicked Happy, and our first screen printer they also were the first screen printer for the Life is Good guys. That's not why we picked them. It just happens to be, we're from Mass, they're from Mass. It just happened to be that way. But so as far as stories, I'd love to hear, like, was there a brand that out there now, like, I mean, I don't know where Essentials is from, or Supreme. Or
I
some of these guys.
Till this day, I still can't talk about what brands we've printed for.
Why?
I swear, because you got, one of the things you have to realize is we were printing for a lot of people that didn't know we were printing for them. So,
oh yeah, you know what? I have a couple businesses like that too.
Yeah,
so I have a couple competitors that I do stuff for, and they don't even realize it's me.
Yeah, oh yeah. So I still have to watch what we say with with all of that, because it can still come, even though we've gotten out of the industry, it can still come back on the guy who is still printing that brand stuff. So, because they didn't know that the stuff was being outsourced to us, or they knew it was being outsourced, but it was hidden where it was. So I still don't talk about the brands.
All right. So without you saying though, like, are there brands that we know now, because there's brands that, popping up every day that, not the Nikes, but, things that are, like again, like a Supreme or Essentials or what have you.
There's a couple that you would know.
And that you guys were like the first ones to just like see it come through your shop, and
we seeing chunks of it. Yeah. Oftentimes by the time we were brought into a brand, they had that first little pop. Right. And they were looking for something to go a little bit cooler. And that's why we'd get brought in, they were looking for a little bit cooler. And then we got into this whole path at one point that we were doing a bunch of the heavy metal bands. And people knew where they were getting that stuff printed. So some of the most grotesque images you've ever seen being printed across these shirts. And like, you're just like, wow, that's a cool band, but it's a little freaky. But like, we got the opportunity. One time we printed we got to print Yoda with an official Star Wars license for the Dodgers. So like, that was one of those that was really cool years and years ago. The Giants the San Francisco Giants were about to win the World Series. And I get a call. We get a call that morning. We had just kind of started to close down the company. And they're like, we need 50 gallons of black ink. And we're like, you need what? You need 50 gallons of black ink. Okay. So they drop off. So I'm like, what's it for? And I knew the shop that was asking for it. There were some friends of ours. And we're like, you're printing the world championship shirts, aren't you? And he goes, I need 50 gallons of black ink and I need it today. And I'm like, I want a shirt before the game starts. So we had the MLB world champions giant shirt with the MLB hologram on it before the last game was played. So it was weird stuff like that where you just get all excited because you're like, when else is this going to happen? We're San Francisco Bay Area natives. Like, this is just a cool thing. And we had to promise that if anything happened, we destroy the shirt. So
I remember watching like I don't think it was it might have been like a documentary about, so you got two teams and, they, especially if it's 3-3, one's going to win and they print both, right? They usually and so the losers usually they end up donating them and they to like a third world country where no one will ever see them. But I remember watching a documentary about like kids running around wearing, Yankees World Series, T-shirts when in fact the Red Sox won or whatever.
They print almost 50-50 of each of them. Like if you start getting late into the series and it's pretty obvious one team's going to take it, they'll slow down. But other than that, they're not going to miss out on being able to sell as much product as possible in those first 2 days.
So, okay, so you'd mentioned that you're 15 when you started that business with your brother. You'd mentioned you shut it down. Did you shut it down? Did you sell it? Like what happened? What was the genesis of that?
What happened? So for all intents and purposes, the business was shut down. Mm-hmm. But we had margins were low. We had some things come up on the business side. It was a good, healthy business. But what really happened is our focus started pulling a different direction. So we learned through the process of owning that company that we had something special at running a manufacturing plant. Because we treated it very different than printing t-shirts. It was very manufacturing focused. Like I said, we were building our own machinery, and that at the same time we started a company that was doing manufacturing retail displays. So we kind of started to morph in it. And we were at dinner in Long Beach, and sitting at the dinner were 4 or 5 of the largest shops in the printing shops in the nation. One guy literally invented printing on a black t-shirt. And there's 6 to 10 of us at this dinner, and we start talking about the margins. We start talking about this, and some of the older guys in the room, they turned to us and they found out that we had this other thing we were working on, that we were going down this path of really just becoming a manufacturer of things, not necessarily just t-shirt printers. We started talking to them about it and talking about kind of the margins and what we were working on. And multiple of like the elders of the industry turned to us and were like, get out, just go. That you guys have, you enjoy this part of the business more, of the manufacturing cycle, and the margins are better, and you can go do crazy stuff. And they were like, just go. Why are you going to do this? And we made the decision that we were just going to go. We had offers from multiple major companies, but both required my brother and I's focus for 5 years on employment contracts. And we weren't into that. And because we were at that kind of cutting edge of stuff, selling it became very difficult, because what people were buying was our ability in combination with our team to push that envelope and to do crazy stuff. And if you couldn't do that, you're just another t-shirt printing shop. And our equipment at that point was worth more than selling just the straight business. So we decided to exit. It was a nice kind of swan dive out, and we finished out all the projects that we had in motion. There's a certain cartoon that was the last job that was ever ran in our facility. And till this day, my brother will not let his children watch this cartoon, because we had weighing down everything, like machinery starting to get pulled out of the plant and all stuff. And him and one other guy are finishing this last job. and getting it just right and mixing all this color. And he has nightmares about this cartoon still.
All right, in a second, I want to talk to you about this Made in America movement. Your company, Manufacturing Revitalization Corporation of America, MCRA. I want to talk a little bit about that and kind of how that happened. Again, we're on with Jason Azevedo. Man, I want to make sure I got that right. Listen, if you're listening to his story, it's a pretty interesting story, and also the evolution of his career and where things have brought him. We're going to get into that next. But if you'd like some more information about, his company and what they're doing, you can go to MCRA.net. Again, it's MCRA.net. You can also just Google him, Jason, and it's Azevedo. We talked a little bit about this. He's not really doing much on social media. And the interesting thing about that is because he's in business, he's building businesses. He's actually out there selling stuff. He's working with some of the biggest companies in the world. And quite frankly, social media is actually not that important to him. And I get it. I'm on social media because I kind of feel like I have to. And, but again, if you want to just, learn more about him and what his company is doing, you go to mrca.net. I think I said it wrong the first time. It's mrca.net.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.
All right. So your first company, young, kind of closed it down, learned a lot, didn't really lose anything, made some money. You started to see that you guys are really enjoying the manufacturing process. And then you just mentioned something earlier about making, retail displays. I probably could get up and show you one, but I know the importance of that for a product that's going to go into a retail setting. How do you get into making things like that for, companies like Roku and other huge companies?
So, we got into it because people are, and now it's actually a business partner of mine, but he had the company next door and he knew that we build things, that was our skill set. And we built supply chains to build things. So he came over with a drawing one day and he's like, hey, can we talk about this retail display that he was designing? He's a designer by trade. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And just being the typical us, he goes, how would you attack this? And I attack this. He goes, any idea what that would cost? And I'm like, yeah, it's something like this. And you take it to these 4 or 5 shops and this, thought nothing of it. About a month later, he walks back in my office. Hey, cool. You want to build those things? And I'm like, you want to do what? And he's like, here, I got a PO to build those. You said you could fill the supply chain in. Go ahead and do it. And we're like, okay. So it literally started a retail display company right then and there. And we started doing it for more and more clients and trying it more stuff. And what we learned was we weren't really crazy about dealing with a lot of the suppliers. So over time, we bought or built every supplier we were using, whether it be sheet metal or plastics or printing or assembly or whatever we were using. We started just buying or building these companies. And
is that because, now you said you didn't necessarily like some of what, is that because maybe it's not necessarily not liking them, but is it also because of the control aspect of it so that you can control the whole thing?
There's a control aspect. There's another, the control of timelines and cost was very important to us. The other part of it was the finger pointing game got annoying.
Right.
So if something wasn't working, everybody blamed, oh no, it's that guy's fault that doesn't work. Is it? And you're just like, guys, we're just all trying to do this here together. We all made a prototype together. So everyone should be in sync with each other. That game got tiresome. So
we just give an example, like a real life example, because I think it's important what you're talking about in business where people get an idea, you got a product. For instance, one of my businesses, we sell dietary supplements and we have multiple manufacturers with the same exact formula, but we have multiple manufacturers, which you probably might not be able to do with some things. Depending on the product, I guess. So that if one goes down, then we got to, the other one can deliver and we stagger in PO. So we kind of try to predict, what if something bad could happen. Can you give me an example of like, holy shit, like we got this huge PO and we got this manufacturer of this piece here and we got this one here and maybe what went wrong and how you fixed it?
Yeah. So let's take like printed acrylic, with something we do a ton of back printed acrylic.
So you're talking about like a sign or something like
signage
like this backdrop behind me is acrylic probably.
Okay. Yeah. So, and set into a steel fixture that's at the end of an aisle in Best Buy.
Okay.
Well,
so it'd be like what they call an end cap display.
An end cap. Like yeah. So you get an end cap in a Best Buy. These things are very expensive. The land they're on is even more expensive. And you have your sheet metal being done and it's powder coated a certain color. And the printed acrylic has in it that same color. And the powder coat guy decides he's going to run it right next to a booth that's running black powder coat that day. So he has just a hair tinge of black getting mixed in. And the printer who's printing it, it's a little humid that day. So his color's running a little bit. Well, you put those two next to each other and suddenly they don't match. Well, each guy's sitting there going, well, I'm within 1 point of correct and I'm 1 point correct, which neither are, but they're trying to downplay it because they know that they both kind of didn't follow the path correctly. And they've separated so far that it looks really ugly because there's nothing worse than like two colors that are supposed to be the same, but really different right next to each other. And when you have the internal controls or you have a very good supply chain, you can sit there and go, no, you two are going to stay in sync with each other the whole time. So if one's going a little darker, he's going to pull back a little bit. The other guy's going to balance for him, and the whole thing will look consistent and perfect the whole time. What would happen in the reality of that time and place in manufacturing were people were cutting back the quality controls. They were cutting back the systems that they would use to make sure this was all right. And then if anything went wrong, oh no, that's not, it wasn't me. See, the weather that day, that was my favorite one that we would get on a regular basis from suppliers. Oh yeah, see, the weather and the humidity was rough that day. And people would buy this and I'm like, guys, we are in Northern California. It is the most perfect climate in the entire United States. So if you're having weather and humidity problems here, how does anybody produce anything in Georgia?
Right.
Do they just not produce there? It's like, no, they control the environments. So we would run to all sorts of cases like that. And we just got to the point where we realized that our manufacturing controls we can control and we liked how they worked. And we were building more and more systems to make them efficient that we decided, let's just do more and more internally.
Did you ever have an instance where, like a big order, a big PO, that you guys were kind of maybe took maybe too much of a risk on and it comes in and it was just totally wrong?
We have.
What do you do? What do you do in that scenario? Again, the reason why I'm asking is because you're in business. I'm in business. I mean, I've had everything you can imagine happen to me and we're still here. You're still here. What do you do? And I'd love to hear, and I'll give you that. So I'm friends with Kevin Harrington, the creator of the infomercial, who's the original Shark and Shark Tank. He tells a story in one of his books. He ordered, they had this wok that they sold on television and they ordered them from China back in the day. And they decided, well, rather than putting them below board, let's put them above board because we're going to save a couple $1,000. Comes over from China. They were steel. They came over. They were all rusty, 10,000 of them. And that was all the money they had. Well, he tells a story about what they did and how they fixed it, and they ultimately fixed it. But I don't know if you can think of anything where that sticks in your head like, shit, man, this was a pivotal moment in our career.
So we actually had one. It was as stupid as it sounds. It was a cardboard display, which are known to be cheap. But this happened years ago. And we had an engineer that made an engineering adjustment post the approval of this item to make something more efficient. Well, the adjustment got messed up. It caused this cardboard piece to be the wrong size. Luckily, on the positive side, not the negative. And you were talking probably $50,000 of cardboard. And the first thing you got to do when you enter when you find something like that is just acknowledge what the issue actually is. The people's gut reaction is always, it's completely screwed. Don't have enough time. It's like, no, what is the actual problem here? And let's at least identify it. So we went, I distinctly remember, went down warehouse floor, and everyone's looking at this going, we're out of time. We start assembling this tomorrow. There's nothing that can possibly be done. And we find out that it's a little long, and one of the hole patterns is wrong on it. And next thing you know, we're like, okay, well, what would it take it to make it right? We got to run all that through the machinery, and there's no way to line it up, and blah, 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 blah. And one of my guys looks,
how many pieces of you said 50, you said you gave a dollar amount, but like how many like units are we talking?
Probably 75,000 units.
Okay.
And these are super low margin items because they're cardboard and all that stuff. And more importantly, we're just out of time. Like the money is one thing, but there's no time. And one of the guys goes, why don't we hand cut them?
Well, that's where I was going. I knew that's where I was going.
But every person in the right mind in the room is just like, look at the sheer volume we have. How are we going to hand cut them? He goes, all I need is enough for tomorrow's production. He goes, let's get the engineering team working on how to fix the big volume. He goes, but so that we don't miss our time window, we need to understand how to fix today's problem. And I was very proud of my team because they suddenly, it was hey, this is not a singular issue. This is I need to be running tomorrow so that we don't miss our window for this project. And then during that time, let's get everyone else figuring out what they're going to do. So in the next 24 hours or the next hour, acrylic guides were made so they could cut it perfectly by hand. Then another group is sitting there figuring out how can we re-get these into the machine to get them to line up so we can run them at full speed. And we started breaking down the issue to tomorrow's issue, next week's issue, and next month's issue, which had they had the same result, but they had different ways of getting there to solve it. And we tell these kind of stories within all of our companies all the time is, hey, you got to really break down what the real problem is. And the real problem there was, hey, we don't have the time to get this ready for tomorrow, but we're not going to use 75,000 units tomorrow. So that's really not our problem. Our problem is 1,000 units tomorrow. Oh, well, that's very, very achievable.
To me, that's just such a beautiful story. I love it. I know one of my first questions to you was about, how do you end up doing stuff for Roku? How do you start making these point of purchase displays? But I think it's really important for those listening that, look, as entrepreneurs, you just have to figure it out. There's always a way, in fact, again, I just knew that we would connect pretty well. As I had I think I told you, I think I said it during the podcast, where I had a business to these freeze pops and boost. And we had these big machines, and I'm in law school at the time. I had no money, but we were producing stuff. We were on the cover of Stuff magazine. We were doing big things, and we started printing these things. And they were it's called you probably know. There's a form fill seal machine. There were six ups, and they were making, I don't know, a few thousand a minute. It was insane how fast these things are coming off, right? So I'm excited. They all coming off, and we realized that they weren't sealing properly, and it's liquid, right? I delivered 8 pallets here in Massachusetts to like the biggest liquor store chain here in Mass, and I was all excited. Cashed the check because we were like broke. I was driving a car that was unregistered, no brakes. I'm in law school. Cashed the check. 2 days later, they call us up and they say, "Come pick these things up." We're like, "Why? What are you talking about? Come pick them up." They're all leaking. All of them are leaking, and we had, I don't know, probably a couple 100,000 of these things sitting in a warehouse. What do? Fucking hand sealed every single one of them after that.
So I've got a famous saying that my brother and I trade around a lot. Everything happens for a reason. Sometimes it's because you're stupid and made a bad decision.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are times when you just have to say, I screwed up. It's on me. We're moving on. The amount of time I see people that are just like, it all happens for a reason and it's going to all work out. No, sometimes
it's not always going to work. I hate when people, it's not always going to work. Or
sometimes you're the reason and you must be the correction too.
Right. Yeah. It's one common denominator. It's you. So, all right. let's talk about this Made in America thing, because I've said it a couple of times. Most people know who listen. I'm an attorney by trade, and my specialty was advertising law. So and there are rules and regulations as it relates to when you say Made in America, because it's a marketable thing. And so you're focusing on, and your businesses right now are trying to revitalize the manufacturing in the United States. Trump obviously, was really kind of big on that as well, and doing it in a very unique way. Why is it so important to you and your businesses to hold on to that? And by the way, I've bought stuff from China, I've bought stuff from different countries, and most of the stuff I get from China is, quite frankly, probably better than the stuff I've bought here. It just is what it is. Why is it so important to you, and why is it important to the future of this country?
So I want to make a delineation between Made in America and American manufacturing. Made in America, as you pointed out, means 100% made in the US. And that isn't always the right choice. Okay. But American manufacturing is insanely important to the infrastructure, and manufacture of any country is important to its own infrastructure. But
in other words, you could bring in like steel from, I don't know, I guess we'll use Russia, but you could bring in steel from another country. You're manufacturing, it's manufactured in the United States.
Yeah, because what we're really interested in is preserving local communities through great jobs and great environments for them. So take like Tesla. Tesla is not made in America, but it provides a lot of very good American jobs.
Right.
And so there's a line there. Our interest is preserving local communities, whether that be local LA communities, whether it be the local rural communities that we're working in, like Arkansas and Georgia. And what that really means is that there are tons of American manufacturing companies still that are in existence, and they're thriving. They're absolutely killing it, and they're good, healthy companies. There's an interesting moment in time that a lot of those are owned by people who are choosing to age out. They are at retirement age, and we've spent the last 20, 30, maybe 40 years in the US saying manufacturing is bad, don't work in a factory, don't get into this industry, don't do that. But it's not true anymore. Our factories are not these scary, dangerous, grueling places. They're bright lights, safety systems everywhere, automation, shiny. They're great jobs. You don't need an education to get most of them. This is literally a way to change the course of the country. And the other fallacy people run into is that American products are automatically superior. No, good products are made all over the place now. But the most important one that people are just wrong on nowadays is that American manufacturing is more expensive. And we can kill that fallacy in one easy swat. Foxconn, the single most famous Chinese manufacturer, the maker of the iPhone, is building a factory in Wisconsin.
Wow.
They've figured it out. You think
why?
They're because in the last 10, 15 years, technology has changed the industry. It caught up. There was a drastic reduction in labor when low wage countries came on and started taking this. Well, technology caught up. And the other one we hear from a lot of people is, oh, well, the automation is going to take jobs. No, it's not. Automation is just helping us keep up with the consumption that we're now doing. So one worker used to make one product and buy one product each, and he'd go buy a product each day. Nowadays, one worker, if he only makes one product and he goes home and buys four, because we're all addicted to being on Amazon and buying stuff, we don't have the production to not use automation. We don't have the capacity to not use automation. So it's not taking jobs. It's actually just revitalizing those jobs and teaching those guys and the guys and girls and how to be more effective and use the tools so they're not trading their bodies for production. The landscape right now is so drastically different than it was 20, 30 years ago. And That is where we come in saying that we're revitalizing it. And what our actual true focus is these are great. They're great jobs. They're great companies. Worldwide, people are starting to move factories into the US. So there's actually an interesting documentary on Netflix called The American Factory, of a Chinese company coming to the US and building a factory. It's worldwide, people are seeing this. Add in supply chain issues, shipping issues, fuel prices skyrocketing, the wages going up around the world. That time is now. It is the time that American manufacturing starts taking its hold and regains that prominence. And frankly, that's why with our PE firm, we're out buying and connecting all these companies together, is because they're good, profitable companies that are important in their communities. And if we can come in and preserve that legacy, that community continues to thrive. And if you have local communities thriving, that is the basis for a country operating extraordinarily well.
Wow, man, it's a real honorable thing that you're doing, and it sounds like it. Yeah, I mean, I think there is a big fallacy out there, because I think about it and I'm like, well, I mean, the labor costs, right, in other countries is much lower. What's your take on the thought here in the United States that, you have people from outside this country that come in, especially from Mexico, that are, quote, taking the jobs that Americans don't want to do? Is that a reality, or is that just another fallacy that is being, it's propaganda that's being fed to us through the media?
It depends. And I don't want to dive too much into this, but if
now we're gonna fucking dive into it. Now you said that.
but because I have a very simple answer to it. If the worker is being exploited, then somebody can take the job.
Right.
What we focus on is making sure none of our workers are exploited. We work to make sure that they're very well taken care of, that things are very structured. If you want to work with somebody who's going to exploit workers, that's when you can get somebody coming in taking lower wage jobs. So there's a balance there. Put all politics aside, it's truly about revitalizing that worker. If I can teach a guy who's been a welder for 20 years to operate a welding robot, he'll get more production out. His body's better taken care of. And I can pay him whatever I want, or not whatever, but I can pay him much better and take care of him much better, because now we're getting that production addition from him. So really, it's about making sure people aren't exploiting workers, and that whole problem kind of solves itself.
A second, it's interesting that you just brought up too. My father was a CNC machinist for years, and one of the things that didn't allow him to really kind of progress was education. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that in just a second. Again, we're on with Jason Azevedo. If you're listening right now, one, his story is pretty awesome, and two, what he's doing for the United States and for communities is also awesome. So if you'd like some more information about what he's doing and what his companies are doing, you can go to mrca.net. Again, it's mrca.net. You can Google Jason as well, but like you said, he's not that active on social media. He's on LinkedIn, he's on Facebook, and but if you really want to understand, what he's doing and what his companies are doing, go to mrca.net. So it's interesting you said too, where you could teach someone how to use a robot, so to speak, right? I mean, because I always say, there's a human behind everything. Yeah. And talk about that as well, because earlier you had said that a lot of these jobs, you don't need higher education. They're good jobs, they're good paying jobs. When someone maybe, they have, they graduate high school and they're in one of these communities where there is a manufacturing plant where it's, like you said, technology is evolving a lot. You're not seeing these factories with big giant coal stacks. In fact, this building that I'm in right now was the first manufacturing company in the country, the United Shoe Factory. You can Google that. 11 acres of space here. They made machines that made shoes, and then they also made shoes themselves, and then they also made ammunition during World War I and II. But and became a military target. This by the way, this building's pretty awesome. It's right here in Beverly, Massachusetts. You can check it out.
So talk about that, the education side of things. And I'd like for you to maybe even go back and touch upon a little bit more about the quality of work. It's not what it used to be in this building right here where people were, chopping off their arms and, and getting sick and things like that.
Yeah. So let's take from the education side first. Any manufacturer worth their weight will go out of their way to on the job train and bring people up through the ranks. Especially somebody who's on kind of the leading edge of manufacturing, or they're in that transition point heavily, like we are, where it's about the revitalization and getting it to that next stage in history. Because the hardest part is the culture within a manufacturing plant. I joke with people all the time, but I'm also very serious about it. This is a people game like no other business. I mean, if you think about what everyone complains about manufacturing is high labor costs, that means this is unlike any other industry. Manufacturing is a people business. So if you can get people that have the right attitude and they come up through your organization or organizations similar to you and understand the process and that, teaching them the skills that we'll do that all day long, and we'll move you up as high as you want to go. The plant I'm sitting in right now today in California, we've got a library that all of the leadership in the company constantly goes out and picks up books that they want. We tell everybody, go read the book. We'll sit down and talk with you guys, check everything out. Like if you want to learn anything, just please, we just want to feed you guys knowledge, because we understand if we invest in our people that we get better people. Now going on to the danger and understanding what a modern factory is and versus an old one. Some things have happened in the US, which explain how we ended up here, in my opinion. If you go back 50 years, a mother would turn to her son or daughter and go, get a good paying factory job. You'll be taken care of for the rest of your life. This is what the kind of work you want and all of that. Well, enter low wage countries that start basically using slave labor to make products. You had two different paths that American manufacturers went down. One of them went to treat the people as badly as you can. We're going to mimic what's being done in these other countries. We're going to just basically beat and rob the extra production out of them. And then you had other ones that said, you know what, I'm going to make my people better and stronger. And we're going to put out a better quality product. And we're going to do this because they were competing on skills and efficiency and quality. Well, one of those two groups gave the other one a bad name. And most of those kind of bad, we're just going to attack the employees to get our stuff, guys, most of them went out of business, to be honest. And that's where you start seeing these mass failures in businesses. The groups that decided, hey, we're going to invest in the people, we're going to invest in the process and the quality of the products, they continue to grow, they continue to stabilize. So what did that lead to? If you look, Tesla just sent out the videos of the new Berlin factory and the Texas factory for that matter. It's white floors, brightly lit. There's employee perks. This is not your grandpa's factory anymore. And we as a community need to understand that mental shift of.
You think, as you know, because I still have that imagery of like, you know, what you're talking about. And I think maybe it's just from watching too much of the History Channel or whatever, you know, where you see the stories of, you know, Ford and Henry Ford and, do you think that, you know, what you're doing ultimately as well is just going to take time? It's a generational gap that people just need to, you know, the people that are working in these factories now are begin to realize that it's not what it used to be. And it's actually, like you said, it's a great career or it's a great job.
There is a generational gap. I think the moment in time that we're at is going to drive it much faster than just a natural progression. Between the economics of the fact that pretty much everyone worldwide is starting to understand that reshoring a lot of this into the U.S. is a very good idea. We got to remember the U.S. consumes more than anyone else. Let's put it next to the people that are going to consume it. The other side of it is there is globally, there is a push for all pretty much every country is talking about reshoring more and more. So, and there's, we all hear about the supply chain issues and everything else that's going on. So I think there's a lot of catalysts that have made this moment in time special, but it will take people getting there and feeling the differences and acknowledging it. And that's why when we talk about anything we're doing, we always talk about the community, not necessarily just the employee. And why we find that important is we go into a town, we buy a factory in that town. When someone who works for our organization leaves that plant, if they leave not exhausted, without their body hurting, in a good mood, have had a productive day, we try to make sure the work time schedules work with whatever that local community needs. They go into their community and their families are usually happier because they're not coming home grumpy and tired and pissed off. They might go out to the restaurant to go eat because they have a little more energy today instead of going and just sitting on the couch and eating a home cooked meal. That power of making sure that person's fulfilled and revitalized is significantly more impactful than just the factory building. It truly is going out to everything that they touch when they leave that building. And that if manufacturers are intelligent and they follow that path correctly, now you're getting an exponential effect. Instead of just showing the people that work in your factory it's better, if Joe Schmo comes out of the factory on Tuesday and goes, today was a really cool day. I like they had hot dogs for everybody, and we talked about this cool new tech that we're working on, and everyone's like, "Well, you enjoyed your job today? Well, what do? Oh, I work on the factory floor. Oh, I need to understand more because my job doesn't feel like that." So we believe it is significant. It's there's a lot of catalysts that are causing this to happen much quicker than just a natural generational progression.
Wow, that's a beautiful thing, man. So before I let you go, so if I'm a manufacturer here in the United States, one, I go to mrca.net. How do I what do I do if I go there? How do I work with you? And then also, if I'm someone who's looking for employment, if I go to mrca.net, can I find it there? Or when we go there as an employer and an employee, what am I going to learn and how can I connect further with you and your organization?
So there's three paths. If you go to mrca.net, on there is actually a way to directly put time on my calendar if you want to discuss something. If a manufacturer wants to discuss something, like I said early on, we are a very largely open book. If you are an accredited investor and you want to be involved in the private equity side of what we're doing and get the targeted returns and work with that, there's also ways to there's details on there on how to invest within the organization. If you are an employee and you want to find out an organization of ours that is available, our portfolio companies are listed on there. We're about to add some more. You can see kind of where we're at and what we're working on. Over the next 12 to 18 months, we will be adding more and more to that of where we're bringing plants online. Hopefully we're about to close some transactions. It'll give us a nice, good path through the Midwest. But really go to the website. Like I said, there is a link on there to directly sync up with a time to meet with me. I take a ton of my time during the week just to talk to people. If you've got questions, hey, I'm a manufacturer and I want to go down the same path of doing this with my teams. This is significantly larger than just one private equity firm and one manufacturing firm going out and making returns. If we do this together, it's a really cool thing that we can do for the basis of our country.
Wow, man. Again, super excited that you did spend the time today. You sound like you're pretty busy, man, and you're going to continue to be busy for a long time, but it's really an honorable thing what you're doing. Again, so if you'd like some more information about Jason, you can go to mrca.net. I think it's kind of nuts that they can kind of connect with you because there's only so many hours in the day. But you go to MR, I was looking right at it. I was like, I saw the calendar. I'm like, is it really for him? So you go to mrca.net, you can connect with him, whether you're a manufacturer, whether you're an employee looking for something. You can also go there and learn a little bit about what they're doing and what they're continuing to do. It's really remarkable what you're doing, man. And I'm really, really happy that you're doing it. My name's Mike Alden. That's Jason Azevedo, and we'll see you soon.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.